Hey guys, so we just had the ban list, so I'm just gonna honestly just straight right into it, into a meta tier list, post ban list, but also post Legacy of Destruction, because it is basically within a couple of weeks, so obviously it's very early. I'm gonna get things wrong in terms of sequence of the decks, so I'm certainly looking forward to your guys' comments in terms of, how you might shift around this meta tier list, and we can sort of work on it together, basically. So honestly, let's just start with the best deck. Even post ban list, it's still going to be at least the Fire King version. I think the pure Snake Eye will get to that a little bit. I'm honestly not even sure where to put that one at this point because it did kind of lose a lot of its end board pieces, I guess, in a way. But I think Fire King, we still have to respect it, even post Legacy of Destruction. And that is something where, of course, something like Tenpai Dragon, I think will probably be tier 1. I've been watching a lot of the replays for it. Obviously, it's kind of hard to assess when we don't actually have the format in place. In the OCG, it's still doing pretty well. It's not like the best deck, if at least from the pie charts I was seeing. But I think, especially when it just comes to like representation, regardless of how actually strong it might be, right after the set comes out, there's probably going to be a lot of people trying this out. So it will probably see a lot of play. And it is certainly strong, but it's only going to get much stronger post Infinite Forbidden, which will actually be legal for NAWCQ, which is going to be insane. But I really want to talk about Branded Despia. Obviously, I'm a little biased because this is a deck that I'm running, but I have no idea why they weren't hit at all. I think that's kind of insane in terms of, Sanctifier not being hit, Gimmick Lock is still live, and also Branded Fusion, any of its components were not hit either. So I'm actually kind of feeling like I would put it above Tenpai at this point. You could probably shift them around. I do think it's tier 1 for now. The thing with Branded Despia, though, it doesn't really stay tier 1 for that long, just because it's very easy to counter. There's cards like, Grave of the Ancient Organism. Obviously, a lot of decks play Ash to begin with. D-Barrier also. Like, it is very easy to counter once it becomes really, predominant. But at the time being, at the beginning at least, I do think that, it will probably stay around, at least as one of the best decks that you have to consider. Moving on, something like Vanguard Soul, I'm still going to put in Rogue. Shifter is another one we should talk about that it did not get banned for some reason, and this deck at least plays it, and when you have something like Fire King being like the best deck, it's going to be good. Shifter can also be played in Tenpai as well. I think it's also because if they were to be forced to go first, for example, they can always like play Shifter, your opponent. If they can't do anything, then it just comes back to the Tenpai player, and they can just OTK, and they can actually OTK under Shifter anyways, from what I've heard. And then you have some, okay, Thunder Dragon, specifically actual Thunder Dragons. I'm not talking about decks that can play Colossus, in which case the pure Thunder Dragon, it's probably not going to be that good. Honestly, I remember, like, let's say after Colossus ban, you had like kind of people were still trying to keep it alive with like Titan control. It was really, really bad. You throw in like one Colossus in there, like, sure, it's better, but especially nowadays, since this card was banned, there's a lot of different ways to out it as well. I mean, sure, I guess that's like a draw the out mentality, but nonetheless, I don't think you can really expect much from them. Lightsworn, okay, I guess maybe like top of other. Maybe for now I'll put it in Rogue because I was watching Jesse Khan's Lightsworn video, which you should totally check out as well. He was kind of trying out both Tear Element version and the Runic version. The Runic version seemed really insane, which is actually, speaking of Runic, somehow also did not get any kind of hit. So Stun, this is going to just represent stun because most of the stun decks, if you watch my stun breakdown video, they're actually mostly Runic variants. There's some Horus variants as well. I'm going to put it at top of tier 2 for now. You could argue, some I think are saying that maybe it's actually tier 1 at this point. I think kind of like Branded, but not really, but in the sense that like it is pretty easy to side, like especially any kind of back row heavy decks, like you're always going to side some back row anyways, whereas for Branded, like you need to have more targeted side cards. So I think Stun, I'm just going to put it here, but I do think that because it's already tier 2 even now, because of all the regional tops at least it was getting at the YCS level, if you watch my stun breakdown, it actually wasn't doing that well. It only has one YCS top throughout this entire Phantom Nightmare format, but still you have to be mindful of them. Orcus is another one. I'll at least put it above Thunder Dragon. I don't actually think it's going to be that high anymore. At the beginning when Harp Horror first came back, sure, actually got some notable amount of regional level tops, but it's been steadily declining since then anyways. Salamangreat though, I would actually put it either bottom of tier 2 or like top of Rogue, I feel like, because they have been doing pretty well coming into this like current format. They got some indirect fire support, and it's just been really strong, and it's got back-to-back YCS tops as well. On top of that, regional level wise, it was actually kind of slowly declining in the last little bit, but still nonetheless, overall Phantom Nightmare format, decent amount. I would also put Sprite in Rogue. It didn't get any direct hits. Who knows? Maybe they can actually play Colossus because they are Thunder. Maybe you like play Pixies or something, and then just slap on a Colossus. I think for now, especially coming from like regional level top wise coming into this format, I think they are still deserving Rogue. I'm gonna put Flunder in tier 2 though. because I think that's where they belong even right now, and they are still shifter deck. It's going to be pretty decent, at least against something like Fire King. Shifter against Branded Despia, honestly, is pretty good too. I know, because I play it. Sure, we can kind of play under it, but and maybe better than most decks, sure, but it's still pretty strong against Branded. So I'm going to put Flunder there. Reek is another one. Let's just put it somewhere here. Rogue, I think it's actually solid. It's sneakily getting a decent amount of regional tops that I'm not sure a lot of people are talking about, and they of course didn't get any direct hits. Centurion, I might even put this because they are getting new support actually in Legacy of Destruction. They're getting like the quick play, allows them to create like a token. They also get a new synchro as well, which is nice. So let's put them at like bottom of tier 2, I guess. Vanadium, this one's kind of funny. Yeah, it's weird. Maybe we'll put it rogue here somewhere. I don't know. Don't focus too much in terms of sequencing these decks. I think the problem is, you know, losing Barone, like just losing an Omni Negate, and then Nibiru just becomes really strong now. And Droll is still around too, so I don't think it's looking that great for them. I could be wrong. Pearly is another one. I'll put it probably like tier 2 actually. I mean, they were pretty solid, and now they got delicious to 2, which is kind of big because of just like the bigger noir that they can make, and also just yeah, that's kind of hard to out for a lot of decks. Heroes, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to put it in other. They did get Mally to 3, which is a nice little boost. And you know, there's some sporadic tops here and there for the last few months, but I don't think it's really at like that higher level at this point. Hopefully I'm proven wrong though, because I'm a big fan of anyone who plays hero. Sky Striker is another one I would put here. They did get Engaged to 3 as well, which is nice. I think once you actually get the new support for Striker, then you can kind of put them higher into like rogue status at the very least. For now, this deck has honestly been very absent in terms of tops for almost a year now. It's been really sparse. Yubel. So I only recently found out. I should also thank my friends for helping me kind of come up with this tier list sequence as well. One thing they did note out to me is that I didn't realize that they weren't getting the fusion one yet in Legacy of Destruction. That I think makes this deck a lot better, of course. For now, maybe we just put it somewhere in like Rogue tier 2. I don't really know the sequence. Let's just keep them somewhere around here for now. You know, don't judge me too much in terms of actual order. Certainly let me know what your thoughts are on this deck. They are still getting some new support, Legacy of Destruction. They're getting a couple cards, like a field spell, I guess, and the other monster that can like summon and destroy. Raid Raptor, I think, also belongs in somewhere in the Rogue tier. They have gotten a decent amount of tops. I don't think anything's really changed. Bestials are still around though, and I don't know, maybe with Branded, especially at the beginning, there's a lot of play of them, that there's more Bestials that could also indirectly affect them. So, and Imperm, of course, is pretty strong. Keshira is another one. I'll put it somewhere in between, like Pearly, like, you know what, let's just put it here. It's a shifter deck too, and it's been pretty strong lately. If you saw my recent regional report, the top court representation has actually kind of gone solely up for Keshira, and I think it's very solid. Dragon Link, this one's kind of interesting because on one hand, sure, they play a lot of Bestials, which can kind of counter Branded, but they did lose Savage, Barone. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of confident in Dragon Link to be able to pull it off. They always have, but whether can they pull it off right now, I'm not so sure. Let's put it a Rogue for now. That's kind of where they belonged right now, because they actually haven't gotten that many regional tops either. Certainly not YCS level. Chimera's another one. Honestly, I would put it somewhere in Rogue here. Again, I'm not sure. Maybe I'll put it somewhere here, actually. You could almost, I mean, you know, with Branded Despia going up, Branded Fusion not being hit at all, maybe someone would even argue put it somewhere like bottom of tier 2 or something. But I think for now, Rogue section is still pretty fair for Branded Chimera. And then you have Tier Elements is another one. I'd put it somewhere around here. I think it's actually pretty scary, actually. Rogue, I mean, you could maybe argue tier 2. I'm not too sure at that point. You know, we do have some Lightsworn support coming out, and I know there's some experimentation with both of these combined. Again, as mentioned earlier when I was also seeing that Jesse Con video, it kind of seemed like, honestly, Lightsworn went better with, like, Runic. But Tier Elements always really strong. I really do respect them. And then you have, oh, I should have mentioned Voiceless. I think they're still tier 1, at least in terms of representation. Like, from a power level, I find Voiceless Voice to be pretty fair, or although at least they are getting also new support, so that's probably why I'm gonna put them here still. They kind of got some indirect hits in a sense, because something like Summon Limit, Anti-Spell Fragrance, they do tend to side those kind of floodgates, you know, makes them really good going first, but that's at least hit. I mean, there's still some floodgates left. I don't know if there's any that Voiceless Voice can use, but I think for now I would still put them here. Rescue Ace, man, I don't know what to do with this one. Like, in terms of purely power level, I feel like this deck is actually still solid, but just top wise, it's just really plummeted lately. Again, you could check my recent regional report to find that out. I don't know, with this balance, maybe people will kind of experiment again. You know what, let's just, to be safe, or rather I just put in tier 2, maybe bottom tier 2 to rogue. I just feel like the deck is good. It's just from a representation standpoint, it's been like rogue status, but I think if you were to just kind of, commit to it, I think it's still quite powerful. Labyrinth is another one. I probably put tier 2 anywhere between like Centurion and here, because I mean lately it's definitely fallen off as well, but I guess when you lose the Omni negates like Barone Savage, it's kind of nice for Labyrinth, so I think I'd put it there. And then lastly, also Swords. So honestly, I'd still put it somewhere here. I mean, I think top-wise, they probably got a little bit more than Hero, at least, in the current format. They did get Protos, which was the original reason why they got banned, because if it was in Sword Soul when it was Tier 1 about a few years ago, and it certainly was very strong. But again, they lost Barone, which probably means they're pretty susceptible to Nibiru now. I'm not even sure. I don't think you can pull off Protoss in under 5 summons anyways, at least not optimally. And even then, it's really just like light or dark. So yeah, I can't really put much faith in it, although it is a very cheap deck. So if you do want to pick up a new deck, if you're kind of new, I mean, this is actually one of the better ones probably. And then lastly, honestly, Snake Eye, guys, as I mentioned kind of earlier in the video, I really don't know where to put this. So let me know what your thoughts are. I don't even know where to put it. Like maybe somewhere tier 1, tier 2. Oops, definitely not there. So I don't know. Let's just put it here, or somewhere here. Like honestly, don't actually treat it legitimately. I really don't know. But other than that, huge thanks to all of you for watching. Let me know how you would shift this ban list. I really look forward to your thoughts, just in terms of what it's gonna look like post Legacy of Destruction. I think that's sort of the format we have to focus. It's only really a couple of weeks until that thing comes out on. I think it's gonna make things pretty exciting. So anyways, big thanks to all of you for watching. Huge thanks to my patrons and sponsors as always, and well, take care, guys.